Welcome to Free Academic English. I'm Geraldine, and today we're going to read the first lines of The Hobbit.
Chapter 1. An Unexpected Party. In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. It had a perfectly round door like a porthole, painted green, with a shiny yellow brass knob in the exact middle. The door opened onto a tube-shaped hall like a tunnel, a very comfortable tunnel without smoke, with panelled walls and floors tiled and carpeted, provided with polished chairs and lots of pegs for hats and coats. The hobbit was fond of visitors. The tunnel wound on and on, going fairly but not quite straight into the side of the hill, as all the people for many miles round called it, and many little round doors opened out of it, first on one side and then on another. No going upstairs for the hobbit. Bedrooms, bathrooms, cellars, pantries, lots of these, wardrobes, he had whole rooms devoted to clothes, kitchens, dining rooms, all were on the same floor, and indeed on the same passage. The best rooms were all on the left-hand side going in, for these were the only ones to have windows, deep-set round windows looking over his garden and meadows beyond, sloping down to the river.
So now we are going to go little by little. It starts like this. In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. So I would like to pay attention. I would like to call your attention to these words, hole and ground.
Hole.
Hole.
And look at what it is, no? A hollow space. A hollow space, an empty space in something solid or in the surface of something. This is a hole. And then we have the ground.
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 Often the ground, like in the book, the solid surface of the earth. So with these two words, we can understand what Tolkien is telling us. In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. So it will be something like this, no? A hole that is in the ground. And then it's interesting that the next thing that he says is not what this hole is like, but what it is not. Tolkien tells us that it is not a nasty, dirty, wet hole. Let's start with dirty. Dirty as the opposite of clean. And then we have nasty. That was like even worse than dirty. Dirty, but disgusting or repugnant. And wet, something that is humid, moistured, like in this case, this cow's nose. So this is what the hobbit hole is not. Is not a nasty, dirty, wet hole. It's not any of these. And he continues telling us that what it is not. It's not filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell. This would be the picture of the worms, of course. And then an oozy smell. It's a very unfamiliar word for me.
Oozy.
We have the pronunciation.
Oozy.
And he tells us that the definition of oozy is something slimy or with moisture, no, wet, coming out of it. An example better. An example of oozy is an infected wound with pus coming out of it. So it's something also kind of disgusting. It's not. What else is this hobbit hole not? Nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole. I think this picture can explain these three things. Dry, the opposite of wet, not lacking moisture or water. Bare, and that it has nothing in it or on it. Bare is an adjective usually used for for people, right? When you're bare feet, when you have no shoes, no socks, when there's nothing on you. So there's nothing in this hole. And sandy is for the texture, for the material, no? The material of sand from the beach. This would be something dry, bare, and sandy, which is not a hobbit hole. And this hole without anything, Tolkien says, with nothing in it to sit down on, so no chairs, no sofas, no couches, nothing to eat, very important for hobbits. So there's nothing in this hole. So up to here, this is not a hobbit hole. So what is a hobbit hole? Tolkien says it was a hobbit hole, and this means comfort. So then so far, we have read this part, and I would like to read it again.
In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. At a nasty, dirty, wet hole filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell. Nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort.
All right, so this is what the hole was not. So now the description of the hole begins. This hobbit hole had a perfectly round door, means that this is circle, like a porthole painted green.
Porthole.
Portal.
And it is a round window in the side of a ship or an aircraft. So just a round window, that's a porthole, painted green. So as we all know, this is the green, perfectly round door. This door had a shiny yellow brass knob in the exact middle. So what I did here was to actually Google shiny brass knob, and what I got were these. And I think these are very good examples. They are very shiny, like the light reflects on it, right? Very bright. Yellow, well, it's the color of brass, actually. Brass is the material, the metal, and knob is the kind of object this is, right? And we all know that there is a shiny yellow brass knob in the exact middle of the green door. Now, what happened when you opened the door? The door opened onto a tube-shaped hole, like a tunnel. This is the shape, right, of the tube. This is the hole and the tunnel. Well, what is this tunnel like? It's a very comfortable tunnel without the smoke, but it has paneled walls and floors tiled and carpeted. If we go to panel, for example, it sends me to the verb panel. So when we add ed, it becomes an adjective, paneled. But to panel the verb, we will hear the pronunciation from British English.
Panel.
And the pronunciation for American English or North American English.
Panel.
This verb means to cover or to decorate the surface or flat pieces with flat pieces of wood or glass or etc. So the walls in the hobbit hole were paneled. They were covered, decorated with pieces of wood, glass. I think in the movie we see a lot of wood, but not completely paneled, right? Like in this picture that, if I'm not mistaken, is from Tolkien himself. Here we can see that the wall has something, no? Like there's a texture, like they are paneled, no? There is something on the walls. And I like that because in the floor, we can see the tiles, no? Each of these rectangles is a tile. So when you put the tiles on the floor is tiled. And then we see a big carpet, and the floor is carpeted, no? It has a big carpet. And so more or less then what we know is this. It was provided with polished chairs. So a polished chair is a chair that has had this treatment to make it shiny. And there are lots and lots of pegs for hats and coats. These pegs.
Peg. Peg.
It's a short piece of wood, metal, or plastic, used for holding things together, hanging things on, marking a position, etc. There are different kinds of pegs, but we are referring to the first one, right? Lots of pegs for coats and hats. It says, the Hobbit was fond of visitors, so he loved having people. So it was hard for me to find those pegs in the in the movie. And here is the coats and the pegs. This is a much better picture. I just saw it some minutes ago. Here are all the pegs. We finished with the second part.
It had a perfectly round door like a porthole, painted green, with a shiny yellow brass knob in the exact middle. The door opened onto a tube-shaped hole like a tunnel, a very comfortable tunnel without smoke, with paneled walls and floors tiled and carpeted, provided with polished chairs and lots of pegs for hats and coats. The Hobbit was fond of visitors.
What happens after the hole, right? The tunnel wound. This is a nice verb also. To wind.
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 So I'll repeat. Here it says of a road or a river, in this case of the tunnel, to have many bends and twists. So it goes in many directions. So the tunnel wound on and on. So it had many twists, going fairly, but not quite straight. So if you go straight, you go from here to here. But if you're fairly straight, it's like you're almost straight. And if you go fairly, but not really quite straight. So this is just, I think, a game of words that he made. Like, it is straight, but it's not straight. It's just trying to tell us that it wasn't very straight. And then the hill, as all, or the audio said the hill, like not just any hill, no, but the hill, as all the people for many miles round called it. People from not so much around, for many miles around. So from far away called it the hill, not just any hill, the hill. And talking about the hill, many little round doors opened out of it, similar to our door, first on one side and then on the other. This is also a Tolkien's drawing, but I think it's painted, colored by somebody else. And that's it from this part. I will need another volunteer.
That the tunnel wound on and on, going fairly, but not quite straight into the side of the hill. The hill, as all the people for many miles round called it, and many little round doors opened out of it. First on one side and then on another.
This is the last part, if I'm not mistaken. No going upstairs for the Hobbit, meaning that there were no ladders, no going upstairs, everything on the first floor. Then we are going to see the rooms, but Tolkien says that all the rooms were on the same floor, no? On the first floor, no second floor. And indeed, on the same passage. And then here we have the different rooms that we are going to see, especially this one that we're going to look at in a second, the pantry and the cellar. All of the rooms Tolkien describes. And what I like the most about this part is that they are all in plural. Like bedrooms, you understand that there are many bedrooms in one house, right? Bathrooms, okay, maybe. Cellars, pantries, plural, lots of this, not only plural, but telling us there are many pantries, wardrobes. He had whole rooms devoted to clothes. I've never seen this. I would love to see those rooms. Kitchens. It's like, how many kitchens do you have? Dining rooms, like all in plural. I wanted to look at cellars because I think they are not so common.
Cellar.
Cellar.
And it's an underground room. Well, we were already almost underground, often used for storing things. So in general, it can be for storing things. And then I think in this case, the hobbits would store wine because you know how they love it. And then the other is pantries. A pantry.
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 A pantry would be a cupboard or a small room in a house. In a normal house, obviously, in a hobbit hole, it would be probably a big room because there were many, used for storing food. The pantry is a very special place for a hobbit. And in the Hobbit, and there are some scenes where we can see it. For example, here, when Bilbo's complaining and the dwarves are actually eating everything in the pantry, right? Where he stores the food. And we can see like the cheese, it looks so delicious. Well, I love cheese, the bread and the vegetables, everything that he has there. And in the next scene, if I'm not mistaken, he goes to the cellar. It's here. This would be the cellar, the wine cellar, right? Because it's all we can see here is wine. And Bilbo complaining. So that would be the cellar, the pantry, and the cellar. The best rooms were all on the left-hand side going in, meaning that, for example, if we are here and this is the door and we enter, this is the hall and we are here and this is like the main passage. If you are standing here, the best rooms are on your left, right? All these rooms that are on the left, and these will be the rooms in the right, and these the rooms on your left. And why? Tolkien says, for these were the only ones to have windows, deep set round windows. Well, the same we can see here, right? That, of course, on the right, we are inside a hill, so there can be windows there. So on the left, there were the best rooms because they had windows. And then he talks about the windows. Deep set round windows that we can see in the scene, for example, from the Lord of the Ring, where also when Gandalf is entering, and we can see on the left that we have the windows, and they are also deep, no? Not at like at the same level of the wall, but deep in. And through this window, these windows were looking over his garden and the meadows beyond. I also love this word, meadows.
Meadow.
Meadow.
A meadow is a field covered in grass, used especially for hay. Like what we always see when they present the Shire, no, like meadows only. Oh, this doesn't help. Like in general, no, the green field, and sloping down to the river, right? Because we are like kind of on the hill, on an upper point, and it goes down. No, we can see that it slopes down. It goes down to the level of the river. And guess what? That's the last of this part. The last part of this part. The last part of this part, yes. And I would need another volunteer.
No going upstairs for the Hobbit. Bedrooms, bathrooms, cellar, pantries, lot of this. Wardrobes. He had made whole rooms devoted to clothes. Kitchens, dining rooms, all were on the same floor, and indeed on the same passage. The best rooms were all on the left-hand side, going in, for these were the only ones that have windows, deep-set round windows looking over his garden and meadows beyond, sloping down to the river.
So this is the end of what we have seen, and I would like to make a little vocabulary review, mostly for pronunciation because I'm kind of a crazy person. But okay, I wanted to share with you. Here I have the list of the adjectives we have seen. We're going to listen to this list that they are all adjectives in British English.
Bare. Carpet. Dirty.
I love that pronunciation, dirty.
Dry.
Fond.
Nasty. Oozy.
Panel.
Polished. Sandy. Shiny. Tile.
Wet.
I love British English, but just for listening and for fun because I can't really pronounce it. And this is the nouns we have seen. I'm gonna play this time the American pronunciation.
Brass.
Cellar.
Hole.
Knob.
Meadow. Pantry.
Peg. Portal. Smell. Ground. Worm.
And the only verb we saw
Wind.
Wind.
in the past that we saw it, wound. Okay. Chapter 1, an unexpected party. In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole, filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole, with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. It had a perfectly round door like a porthole, painted green, with a shiny yellow brass knob in the exact middle. The door opened onto a tube-shaped hole like a tunnel, a very comfortable tunnel without smoke, with paneled walls and floors tiled and carpeted, provided with polished chairs, and lots of pegs for hats and coats. The hobbit was fond of visitors. The tunnel wound on and on, going fairly, but not quite, straight into the side of the hill. The hill, or the hill, as all the people for many miles round called it. And many little round doors opened out of it, first on one side and then on another. No going upstairs for the hobbit. Bedrooms, bathrooms, cellars, pantries, lots of these. Wardrobes. He had whole rooms devoted to clothes. Kitchens, dining rooms, all were on the same floor, and indeed on the same passage. The best rooms were all on the left-hand side, going in. For these were the only ones to have windows, deep-set round windows, looking over his garden and meadows beyond, sloping down to the river. And then we have to continue with the next 300 pages of the book.